taco bowls. The taco bowl recipe is one that I did in the full meal prep video for my first video. However, today we're going to walk through just this meal from start to finish. It's one of the easiest meals that I make to remember the recipe, as well as it's really tasty. So I've already got all of my ingredients out. So today I have 4 pounds of ground turkey. We always buy the 93.7. You can buy whatever you like. You can also use ground beef, but we always use ground turkey 93.7. Now I said I have 4 pounds. So the easiest way to remember this recipe is everything is pretty much a 1-to-1 ratio. So because I have 4 pounds of ground turkey, I also have 4 medium-sized green peppers. So we usually get the green peppers. 1, they're a little bit less expensive at the store. 2, we like how they taste. And then 3, we like to eat green vegetables. So I've got 4 green peppers. Then the onion, we have just a sweet onion here. I went ahead and took the outside off of it. The onion, you can really use however much you want. Now today I'll probably use about 1/3. You want just enough to have the taste, but not enough that it's overpowering and that's what you're tasting throughout the entire meal. Simon is not a big fan of onions, so I err on the side of caution with how much I use. If you really like onions, then you could use about half of an onion per 4 pounds. So if you were just making 1 pound, you would only use 1/4 of an onion, definitely not any more of that. So we'll dice that up. Then we have our taco seasoning mix. So this is just the Ortega 40% less sodium taco seasoning mix. With this, it comes in packets that are really easy and simple. If it's the first time that you're making this and you don't want to commit to buying a whole container of the seasoning, then you can just go ahead and buy individual packets. If you buy the individual packets, you need 1 packet per 1 pound of meat. So again, it's really simple to remember that. So with 4 pounds, you would need 4 packets. Here, 1 packet is equal to, I think it's 4 tablespoons. 4 tablespoons of the seasoning. So I know that I've got about half one left here, so I went ahead and got another one. So that means I need 4 servings of that. And again, 1 serving is 4 tablespoons. I've also got my minced garlic. I usually just use about 1 to 2 tablespoons. With the 4 pounds, I'll probably use 2 tablespoons of that. It's really just a rough estimate. Again, enough to get that flavor, but not enough that it's overpowering. And that's all the ingredients that you need to make the tacos. Now, we usually will eat this by itself. We'll put some gluten-free chips over it, maybe when we go to eat it, but we also sometimes do rice. Now, we had the cilantro lime rice a couple weeks ago we really liked. The store is still out of rice, more popular rice, I guess. So I bought this Thai lime and herb. Now, this is not a Thai dish, but this was kind of in the direction of the cilantro lime rice. So we're gonna give it a try today. So what I'm gonna do first, I'm gonna go ahead and get these green peppers in the strainer. So I just have a strainer over the sink. I'm gonna go ahead and get these washed. And I'll let those be. Set my ground turkey over here. The dish I'm using today to cook in is a big wok. So this is pretty large. If you're making 1 to 2 pounds, you could use a large skillet / saucepan, but you do not need your Instant Pot for this. So we're gonna go ahead and cut up this onion. What I do to help me with kind of trash along the way, I get a bowl, just put one of these plastic bags that I got either my meat or my veggies in at the store, and that kind of becomes my little trash bin while I work. Just makes it go a lot faster instead of having to be next to the trash can. So I'm going to cut about 1/3 of this here, set the rest of my onion aside. And we're just going to dice this onion up into small pieces. So the onion is the first thing that you want. If you're using fresh garlic, then you need to go ahead and mince that as well at the beginning. We're going to get the meat cooking first, then we will cut our green peppers. I like to try to do things as quickly as possible, and cutting vegetables does take some time. So if I don't need my peppers till almost the end, I can do that while the meat cooks. Because 4 pounds of meat does take a minute to cook. Okay, so we have our onions cut up. I'll show you what that looks like. Diced onions. So we're gonna go ahead and come over to our wok. Put it on about medium-high heat. I'm just gonna use a little bit of olive oil, coat the bottom. It's maybe a tablespoon. And I'm gonna go ahead and put my garlic and my onion in here. So again, just a rough estimate, I'm using a bigger spoon. I'm gonna put about 2 tablespoons of this garlic in the bottom. Set that aside. And I'm also gonna go ahead and put my onion in. Now when you put this in, put the onion in around the garlic so that it's in the pan as well. You don't want to cover up the garlic with your onion because then it won't cook as well. Show you what that looks like. So here's my pan. You can see the garlic's right there in the center and the onion is surrounding it. So we're going to let that cook until it becomes fragrant. And I'm going to go ahead and start with the peppers. So basically, while you're waiting for something on the stove, go ahead and get started with your peppers. I may not cut a pepper the way you do, but that's okay. No one ever taught me, I just kind of figured it out. What worked for me. You don't have to get all the seeds out. I like to. That's up to you. My helper is not here today to help me cut these peppers. If you do have a significant other or somebody at home to help you in the kitchen, you could core and de-seed the pepper and then have them dice it up. Go a lot faster. So like I said, this is probably the most time-consuming piece of it, which is why it is appealing to buy frozen vegetables sometimes. But I do really like the taste of fresh peppers. So I'm just getting all the seeds out. All right, so now I'm gonna take my green pepper and I'm going to slice it long ways. So we get long strips, so whatever the length of the pepper is. And then we will cut them in we want about 1 inch long strips. We like bigger chunks of peppers versus a bunch of tiny ones. If you prefer tiny slivers, go for it. In that case, you would just dice it. That would also take a little bit longer of time to do. So I'm content with our 1 inch in size. About 1 inch. So this was just a medium-sized pepper, so I only had to go down the middle once. Then I put it in my bowl and move to the next one. Our onion and garlic is starting to sizzle. It's not quite fragrant yet. Basically, once that, you can really start to smell it. And if you need a visual, your onion will become kind of like see-through. Now we add the green peppers almost at the end because we don't like them to be mushy. We try to have a little bit of a crunch. And when you're meal prepping, they will naturally get a little bit less crunchy sitting in the meal prep container. But they do a good job holding their crunch throughout the week. If you would like it to be more cooked down, kind of like a fajita mix, then you can add them sooner than we will today. Again, it's all a preference. There's really no rhyme or reason as to when I add it. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and stir up. So now it's sizzling. It's been going for maybe a minute or two. Just gonna really mix it in together now. Get it all up in the center of the pan and let it sit for another minute or two. So I might have time to finish this second green pepper. And then we'll start adding our meat. Now the way you're gonna add the meat is you're gonna have 1 pound, then you'll put 1 serving of taco seasoning mix it in really well, and then you repeat until you're done. That way you get the mix really mixed in. You don't have pieces of turkey that are not seasoned well. Plenty of coverage. That also mixes in the garlic and the onion with the meat. Alright, so I'm going to finish the second green pepper and go ahead and start on the meat. I will say with the green peppers, if you have 3 really big peppers, then you only need 3. But we need about 4 medium size, so if you have larger ones, just use your judgment. Okay, so I'm going to reduce the heat to medium on this, and then go ahead and add my meat. Now what I do to make this simple is I take my ground turkey and I basically cut open 3 sides to make a flap. And I do this ahead of time so you can see there's a flap here now. And that way I don't need to use my hands to touch the meat, and I can just hold it and then use my spatula to add the meat into the wok. Just make sure you don't add the little piece at the bottom of your meat container that absorbs the juices, because you don't want that in food. Alright, so basically I just set them over here. I've got 4 pounds. Again, we've got 93.7, so I'm going to start with 1 pound. Just use my spatula. And now I need 4 tablespoons of my taco seasoning mix. It will seem like a lot if you've never done this before, but I promise you, you need all of it, and it's not overwhelming. So I added 1 serving, so now I'm going to mix the meat and the seasoning really well in the wok. Basically, you want it until you don't see it in its powder form anymore. At the same time that you're mixing it in, use your spatula to kind of dice up that meat. All right, pound number 2. Need 4 more tablespoons of seasoning. I lost my little container. There we go. This is really just rough estimates. Just need about 4 tablespoons. It will not make or break the recipe if it's a little off. Alright, so I've got the second one in there. I'm going to break it up, mix it all in. Make sure you're pulling up that meat from the bottom as you mix it in. You don't want anything to get burnt in this process. It shouldn't, and you shouldn't have that problem just as long as you're really mixing it in well. Make sure you're using the tip of that spatula to dice it up and break it up. Alright, halfway there. We got 2 more pounds to go. If you wanted to do 2 pounds of ground turkey and 2 pounds of ground beef, or like half and half, because maybe you don't normally eat ground turkey and you're a little concerned how it will taste. You could also do that. We just really like to make sure we're having lean meat. Alright, got my seasoning. Now once we get all of this mixed in, we're going to add some water. So I have my 1 cup measuring cup out. And I do half a cup per pound. About that anyway. Today, what I do is I will add 1 cup of water, mix it in, and see if, does it need more? Is the water already sitting at the bottom? If you look at the taco seasoning packets, it tells you to put 1 cup per 1 pound. And what I have found is that makes your meat just really soggy and kind of you just end up with all these juices at the bottom, and it's more soupy, I guess is the right word, than a taco bowl, and we don't like that. So we just do it a little bit different. So I've got my 4th pound in here. You really don't need a cup per pound. A half a cup per pound is plenty. Okay, so I have my last one in here. I mentioned I make this pretty much every week. I can't tell you a week that we haven't made it unless we were out of town. And the reason for that is it tastes good. The nutrition we get out of it is really good, and we just don't get tired of it. You can mix it up various ways. Maybe you put salsa on it when you eat it. Maybe you put hot sauce, or there's Walden Farms 0 calorie ranch if you want to do that. We serve it over rice. Sometimes we serve it over spinach. Sometimes we just use our gluten-free chips. So, it's really, there's a lot of different ways that you can mix this dish up and still make the same thing. Okay, so I have my 4 pounds ready to go mixed in. I'm gonna add 1 cup of water to start. And I might add another one, or maybe just a cup, or maybe just another half cup. So add your water and mix it in really well. You'll also see by the time this is over, this dish really just does not take that long. Alright, so I mixed it in. There's no water pooling at the bottom. So I am going to add about half a cup more. I just really do not like for this dish to be soupy. So that's why I try to make sure that there's not too much water. Again, make sure you mix it in really well. And then we're going to cover it and let it sit and cook while we finish our green peppers. Alright, again, we're on medium heat. Just going to let it sit and cook. So we have 2 more peppers to cut up. So you can see there's plenty of time that you don't need to be cutting the peppers up ahead of time, unless you would like to. If you are multitasking and cooking other things at the same time, maybe you do go ahead and do this beforehand. What I will typically do is have something in the Instant Pot going while I do this. So you can make this dish in the Instant Pot, and I have done it. It turns out good. However, I noticed that I could just do this on the stovetop pretty easily while I was cooking something else in the Instant Pot. Something like chicken, maybe that chicken paella dish I make, or some other kind of meat, maybe the rice. Whenever we were eating this over white rice frequently, I would make the rice in the Instant Pot and just use regular old white rice. This week we wanted to try something with lime in it. So I bought some pre-seasoned rice. Get out of there, little guy. I also really like this dish because it's not messy. You know, when you cut up chicken, you have to touch the chicken. There's just no way around it. But with this, we can avoid touching the raw meat because of the just the way that I remove it from the container. So I like that. So again, we're cutting these into slices, long ways, and then about about 1 inch in width. I always wipe off the pepper juice off the, cutting board in between uses. Otherwise, it'll get all over the place. Now I have one more. I'm going to cut this out and then stir up that meat. If you hear it kind of boiling, like water's boiling in the pan, that's a good indication that you need to mix it up. Oops. Let's let that set there. Again, pulling that meat from the bottom so nothing stays down there to get burnt. I'm going to turn this heat up just a little bit, so a little bit past medium, but not quite medium high. If you made this dish in the Instant Pot, you could kind of do the same thing we're doing here, where you could cut the peppers while the meat is cooking in the Instant Pot, and then once it's completed its cooking cycle, you could add the green peppers and they'll naturally cook a little bit in that heat that's in the meat before you measure out into your meal prep containers. So if you do that, because that's what we do with the chicken paella with the peas, right? They're frozen. We add them when it's done, let it sit for a couple minutes, and it naturally will heat them up in the dish. So if you did that, I would let your peppers sit in that container for at least 5-10 minutes before you measure it out. With 4 pounds of meat and 4 peppers, we should get about 8 servings today. It's about the average that I get out of this. Sometimes I'll get 7. It just depends how heavy my spoon is that day, how much I put in each of our serving sizes. All right, so everything is cut up. I am going to go ahead and wash my hands. Alright, so now you can see, like I mentioned earlier, so now all of this is trash, and I just flip it up and it's easy to dispose of. Alright, so here's all of our peppers ready to go. I'm going to give this meat a stir, and then we're going to pop the rice in the microwave and get it started. Meat's starting to get nice and brown now. Still not all the way cooked through. I don't really have a time of how long it takes the meat to cook. I just kind of go on the look of it. Basically, if there's pink, it's not cooked, right? So just kind of keep rotating it around. Make sure you're breaking it up because it will get kind of stuck together as it's cooking. Until it gets that nice brown. The lid back on. The lid helps it cook faster. It's holding in that heat. So we're gonna cook this in the microwave. It says to do what? Not used this before. This brand is VT. I guess that's how you say it. Pierce film several times. Microwave on high for 2 minutes. You know, whenever you are looking at cooking instructions, look and see what wattage they're talking about. And then on the inside of your microwave, there's a little white sticker that tells you what the wattage is of your microwave. I can't remember mine is 1100. And this says 2 minutes on 800. So that tells me is if I did 2 minutes on here, this might explode. So I'm gonna do 90 seconds. Just pierce it with a knife. I actually did cook the, the Uncle Ben's steamed rice in the microwave a couple weeks ago. Forgot to open it up and it exploded in my microwave. So make sure you read those instructions. I have another one here. So this says that there's 2 servings in each of these, I believe. And serving size is 3/4 of a cup. But we are gonna do probably about half a cup. We'll see. But that's the measuring that I have. Let's see. Another thing I like to do as I'm cooking is just making sure that I'm putting things away. So this is the onion we used earlier. It just makes your life easier whenever you get to the finish line of cooking. And if you have a second, why not do it? The onion is not going to fit in here. I'm just going to slice it real quick. It's like a little puzzle. There we go. Alright, so we're going to put our garlic away and put our onion away. This taco seasoning is also really yummy on eggs in the morning. So if you're looking for another use for it, highly recommend it. Alright, got that rice, that smells good. I'm going to leave it in the dish, let it cool off. I'm going to go ahead and start getting my meal prep containers ready. So I've got 4 of these medium-sized for Simon. And I have 4 small ones for myself. Got our scale out as well. Make sure when you open up the rice, peel it away from you. So if there is steam, it doesn't come in your face. There we go. fork to fluff this up, and then we will measure it out. Like I said, this was meant for a Thai dish, but it looked good. Had a lime flavor that we wanted. Before I do that, I'm going to check on our taco meat. Alright, so it looks like it's just about done. I'm actually going to switch out my spatula. I don't know if you really need to do this, but as you get towards the end, once it's pretty much cooked, I like to just kind of get a clean spoon to use. So what we're going to do is mix it up. Yeah, listen, I'm not really seeing any pink in here. So I'm going to reduce the heat to a simmer, so as low as you can go without turning it off. Still make sure that you're mixing it up. You want to be sure that there's no pink in here. And now what I'm going to do is take my green peppers and evenly put them on the top. So I'm not mixing them in yet. Last one. Use that spoon, spread nice and evenly. And I'm going to cover it again. So now the green peppers are in there cooking on top of the dish, and then what I'll do is whenever I'm done with the rice, I'll open it up, mix it all in, and actually let it sit for anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes to let that kind of sauce thicken up that's at the bottom. So I'm going to start with about half a cup. Obviously it's overflowing. It looks good. And if you want to, because as I said before, we try to avoid carbs at night. So if you wanted to do a couple of these with rice, and then maybe a couple without, that would be a way that you could have it for lunch and dinner, depending, what you want to do that day of the week. Alright, I'm going to start with just 3 of mine with rice. So that's a little over half a cup in each. I have a little bit left here. So what I'm going to do is get the second one out, set that aside. It's been sitting in the microwave and waiting for me. You always want to wait just a couple of minutes to let that steam calm down and the rice cool off a little bit. Fluff it up with your fork. It smells good. It does smell like it's meant for Thai, but I like it. So I'm going to give Simon a little bit more than I did myself. He's just a larger human. And I think we're going to get about 3 for him also. So we're going to end up with 3 dishes each that have rice and 1 that does not, which is okay. And then what I do with the rice is just make a nice even layer on the bottom so that whenever we do put the tacos in here, if there is any leftover juices that fall to come to the bottom and gather, because there will be, then the rice can soak it up and it tastes really good. Just like so. Nice even layer on the bottom. Alright, so now it comes time, we will take the lid off. We're turned the heat off also, and now I'm going to mix my peppers in with my ground turkey mixture. So really mix it well. Again, we're always pulling from the bottom to the top. I'm gonna get those peppers all throughout. And now I'm gonna let it sit here for probably about 5 to 10 minutes to thicken, and then we'll come back. See you soon. Okay, we're back. We have let this sit for probably about 10 minutes just to get it nice and mixed in. Maybe let it thicken a little bit. You can see what it looks like. So the 4 pounds does take up pretty much the entire wok. You could maybe do 5 pounds in here, but 4 pounds for about 8 meals, pretty good. So I'm going to start with my dish and go ahead and start measuring out our meals. If you do have a lot of liquid that ends up being at the bottom, say you add a little bit too much water, it's okay. Just use a slotted spoon to measure out your meals so that you're not just getting a lot of liquid in your dish. So I'm going to give myself about 10 ounces. That's meat and vegetables. My scale was a little loose. I was like, why is it leaning on a flat surface? Alright, so I'm going to do 2 of mine and then we'll go to Simon's. If you do prepare rice in some of them, I would say to do those first so that if you maybe only get 7 meals, then you at least have used the ones with the rice. I do take some out if I give myself too much. Alright, so that's 10. So we'll give Simon about 12. Like I said, I always give him a couple more ounces than myself. He's just a taller man. Well, he's a man for one. Weighs more. Needs more food. This is a good way to pre-measure how much you're going to eat so that you don't overeat. But it's also really helpful to help keep your food fresh throughout the week. So this was a little more than 12 ounces, but that's okay. Every time, say you make this dish, you made 4 pounds of meat. It's a lot of meat, right? It's gonna take a few days to get through that if that's the only thing you eat. Well, every time you open the container, oxygen will hit that food and it actually spoils your food a little bit. So the key is to prevent that oxygen from getting in. I think that's a little too much. So if you pre-measure it into these meal prep containers, then you're good. The other thing, we use glass, not plastic, because these are microwavable. If you microwave plastic, there's some different thoughts on that being safe or not safe, because the chemicals can come off of it. I'm not a scientist or a researcher or anything, but I do not like the thought of that, so we use glass. Alright, so he has 3 meals. I'm going to go ahead and do my 3rd meal. There's no exact way to get the same amount of green peppers and meat in each one, so just try to make sure you're grabbing it both. In the past, I've cooked the peppers separately and then added them just to make sure that we had an equal amount of everything, but they really just took a lot of time and I didn't think it was really that necessary, so just started adding it. Plus it was really good to have the flavor of the taco with the peppers. So I started just cooking them in. All right, so even though a couple of these are not gonna have rice, I'm still gonna give them about the same amount of food, because just because you're not having carbs doesn't mean you need more protein in that meal. You can always have more vegetables, but if you want to do that at time of eating, yeah, make some more vegetables. Alright, so I have 8 meals, and I think I actually have enough for probably me to have another meal. So I'm going to get one more meal prep container. So I actually got 9 out of this. It's pretty good. So that's 5 of them with 10-ish ounces, and 4 of them with about 12 ounces. There's just about a spoonful left. I'm gonna give Simon a little bit more. And a couple of them, just for fun. And there we go. So 9 meals in about 45 minutes. I think that's pretty good. Hope you enjoyed it, and let me know if you have any questions.